folks, your OS reviews. You're watching our video review of the Xiaomi Mi Note 2 in December of 2017. As alluded to in our unboxing impressions, this phone isn't completely new to the market. In fact, it's been out for about a year now. Furthermore, the Note 3 is already on the market. However, the Note 3 is not only more expensive, but in my opinion has a design that's much more conservative, and in many ways seems more like a premium mid-end phone compared to the Note 2, which in my opinion is a real flagship. So let's go over some of the details. First of all, starting with the price. The Note 2 can now be picked up on Gearbest for under $300. Sometimes it goes on sale for around $250. That is an incredible value for, again, what is essentially still a modern flagship that rivals devices from Samsung and LG that may sell between $600 to $800. So you're getting a great value for the price. Moving on to design, that's easily one of the best attributes of the Note 2. It features a 5.7-inch AMOLED display that has a full 1080p resolution, but more importantly, it's using a flexible panel. Just like on the Galaxy Note 7, it's a flexible panel that physically curves off at the edges, where you can see kind of the letters and the text will start to bend in a way as it slides off very gently and slopes off towards the edges. It's using curved Corning Gorilla Glass 3 to protect the front in addition to the back, which also has a curved Corning Gorilla Glass surface. So as a result, the phone itself feels incredibly premium in the hand and has this interesting tapered edge design going on that makes it feel futuristic as well as sleek in the hands. At 5.7 inches, the display is also larger than the current Note 3, which has only a 5.5-inch size and retains the same 1080p resolution. So really the screen here is excellent. Because they chose to use an AMOLED panel, the contrasts are also outstanding on this particular phone. Particular blacks are really deep and it seems almost printed on here. It almost looks like a fake display, but in fact, of course, you're holding onto something very much real. So the display is excellent and a great part of the consumption process for using this as a media device. However, one slight downside, of course, to AMOLED, and that is the same critique found on the Google Pixel 2, is that it does exhibit not the most realistic looking colors at certain points compared to LCD panels. And an example can be found where if you kind of tilt the panel really significantly, it has a slightly bluer tint than looking at it head on, where you find a more neutral white color to some of the text. It's a very minor thing, and to be honest, in day-to-day use, it's not a big deal at all. I still find this display to be gorgeous. I find it to be plenty sharp, and for it to be, again, very impressive, especially considering the dramatically lowered price that it's at the moment. But something to really quickly keep in mind. Other elements of the Note 2 are also flagship in terms of hardware specs. We have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 821 processor, which is a quad-core and clocked at roughly 2.5 gigahertz, coupled with 4 gigabytes or 6 gigabytes of RAM, along with either 64 gigs or 128 gigs of built-in storage, further expandable. So you get plenty of storage options as well. You have all the essentials from Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth built right on in, and the back houses a shockingly high 22 megapixel sensor that is crafted by Sony along with a dual-tone LED flash. The phone also does support NFC, but there is no wireless charging. Another benefit of the Note 2 over the Note 3 is the fact that it does have a USB Type-C port and it supports quick charging. However, it retains a standard 3.5mm headphone jack next to the IR blaster, which can be used to control televisions and air conditioner units. So you can still use your regular headphones, which will please many users out there, compared to the Note 3, which completely gets rid of this port, which is a shame. The phone feels impossibly slim in the hand thanks to its edges, which again curves off at the side, but at the same time feels quite substantial thanks to the fact that the rim is still crafted out of aluminum. So as a whole, the phone itself feels very precise, and of course draws a few comparisons with the late Samsung Note 7 just because of the size of having 5.57 inches and also having these curved edges which almost bleed off to the far extents of the left and right bezels. And as a whole, it makes this a very beautiful, elegant, and futuristic looking phone to hold. The sides here also features access to a power key as well as volume rockers, which are crafted out of aluminum and feel very solid as well as tactile. The bottom here just simply features the optical fingerprint scanner, which is very easy to tap on once and to instantly unlock with no delay at all. And there's also reprogrammable software controls for going back to the main screen, so going back, in addition to opening up the multitasking drawer. Now, right out of the box, at least here in December of 2017, the software is running on MIUI version 8. Of course, you can install version 9 if you want to by yourself, but the OTA or over-the-air update has yet to roll out to this device. But with that being said, MIUI 8, which is running on top of Android version 6.0 Marshmallow, is still plenty current for everyone's needs. From running the latest games to being very smooth and optimized, there are no problems at all, especially with the Snapdragon 821 and 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. This thing does not slow down at all, even if you have tons of games and programs open, so very impressive. One of the things that's new though to the Note 2 in particular is you have access to some special launchers and themes which takes advantage of the curved screen, so the physically curved screen. I can swipe up to see this kind of note flashing animation there. Furthermore, swiping from the far reaches of the bezels over will give me access to change the wallpaper in the background, so I can change the color here very quickly. So it gives you quite a few customization options. And then more impressively, on the right bezel, swiping over gives me quick launch shortcuts and widgets for things like commonly used apps such as the contacts, music player, camera. Swiping again gives me my common contacts on my device. There's also a stopwatch, which can be very quickly accessed. There's also a calendar for appointments. It will also pop up and tell you if you have new notifications, as you can see there. And it will save its place so it knows where it was left off from, as you can see. It also gives you weather updates, again, a music player update, a real compass, in addition to, again, showing you more complex notifications. So it's really quite useful, and the fact that it takes advantage of these bezel swipes to access these additional features, I think is quite clever. Now, the curved display isn't quite as dramatic as on, Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 or on their current S8s. That's because there still is a very small bezel. It's noticeable, but it's small, that runs on the edge here. The screen itself, again, is physically curved, which means that if I remove it from the phone and disassemble it, I can bend it and flex it in the same way as a Samsung panel or an LG G Flex panel can really bend, which gives it more flexibility and durability. But at the same time, because there is a slightly larger bezel, the effect isn't quite as dramatic. However, you can still definitely notice it as you're swiping between things and the text just seems to glide right off from the page. One instance where that really comes into great use is in the YouTube app. So as you're playing a YouTube video and everything is playing back just fine, if I kind of drag down the notification shade and just glance and peek at the time, it's right at the curved kind of edges right there. So it almost looks like the screen was just perfectly designed to have this. Otherwise, again, MIUI version 8, it's something that not everyone will love because it's far from stock Android, but at the same time, it is very simple and straightforward. So it gives you actually quite a few handy specific customizations that are actually pretty useful. And for first-time smartphone users, it's not that difficult to pick it up and start using it right away. The drag down notification shade can be accessed just by pulling down anywhere on the screen, which is great, especially on a larger device, which people with smaller hands may struggle to fully reach. From here, I can also take a look at my brightness of the display, which, by the way, gets sufficiently bright even for outdoor visibility without any problems. I can also toggle between things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, etc. The built-in battery pack here is around 4,000 milliamp hours. Combined with the fact that it's a 1080p screen as opposed to 4K means that you're easily able to get over a day of use on this device, especially if you have kind of a power saving mode enabled, you're not running too many games and apps. You might even be able to squeeze in about 2 days of use before you need to recharge it. So again, battery performance is very good, and battery is also larger than on the current Note 3. Alright, so next let's talk a little bit about the reception and call quality, because at the end of the day, any phone, regardless of how smart or beautiful the design is, still has to make good phone calls. And the Note absolutely does that. It features noise-canceling microphones that has a very strong earpiece on the top next to the 8-megapixel camera for selfies that picks up callers' voices without any problems, and vice versa, your mouth is very close to the actual bottom here, so it picks up your voice well even in noisier environments, and reception quality is also good. The Note 2 is one of the few devices produced by a Chinese OEM to have true kind of global GSM band support. So it features 4G LTE almost in any country, in any continent without any problems. So that includes T-Mobile, includes AT&T, and everything just works flawlessly. Reception was consistently within 3 to 4 bars in my testing. All right, so next let's talk a little bit about the camera, because at 23 megapixels, it's a big talking point, and that's to be expected because the resolution seems quite high. Even in darker environments, it seems to still do a good job of picking up shadows as well as details, so no real complaints there. And the overall focusing speed is also quite quick. It's not lightning fast because it doesn't use laser autofocus, but it works quite well. It's definitely better than Xiaomi's other Redmi series phones, so it's a step up, especially with more details and pixels to push around. Overall, I would say that it's a good solid camera, and certainly worthy of one to be held on a flagship. HDR mode can also punch up the vibrancy and contrast of your shots, and the standard interface in the camera app allows me to instantly have filters as well as change things like modes, group selfies, tilts, as well as filters applied directly before you even process the image. So let's take a quick look at some sample images I took. By the way, video recording goes all the way up to 4K, so that's pretty impressive as well. So this is a sample image. You can see that details and colors look very good, especially since this was captured almost before the sun went down. You can double tap again to enter the HD preview, since again 23 megapixels is extremely extremely detailed. So I can see all the textural details of the bark zoomed all the way in, even though it's quite far away from the shot. So again, impressive that you have such amount of clarity as well as detail in your shots. As a whole, you can see that images look quite realistic and natural, so the camera does a great job. One of the benefits of using MIUI devices is that it creates backups of your files onto the cloud when you register for a Mi account. So everything is synced and backed up. In case you lose your phone, it's all going to be still there. If you have a secondary tablet or a secondary phone like I do, all of my images taken with this are instantly synced with my other device. So it's actually quite impressive. So overall, I would say that the image quality of the Xiaomi Note 2 is excellent. No real complaints there. Is it quite as good as something like the iPhone 10 or perhaps something like the Galaxy S8? I would say that there's still a slight difference, and one of the differences is in focusing. That's simply because the camera here does not want to focus really up close to your objects. So you have to at least be 4 to 5 centimeters away for the minimum distance for focusing. If you're closer than that, it's not going to focus. However, on the aforementioned other mainstream flagships, it seems like the cameras can get physically closer to the objects and still focus. So that's just something to point out. But again, the details in here are outstanding. 22 megapixels, almost double of that of the technical pixels that you may find in some of the other flagships out at the moment, which gives you a lot of ability to zoom in and still capture a lot of the image that you would want. So here is a sample video clip that we captured using the 4K resolution. You can see this is what the experience is like. It's a good opportunity to see how the device handles video playback. You can see it's very enjoyable, especially with this large screen size and the fact that, again, the bezels on the left and right are fairly slim. So again, a very impressive video watching experience. It's almost cinematic, and it seems like you're holding onto content as opposed to a device. Again, it's very snappy, and you have the ability to instantly jump back and forth between programs and apps without too many delays. And in terms of built-in browsers, of course, Xiaomi gives you 2 options. You have under Google standard utilities such as Chrome, which is something that I prefer still. But there's also the Mi browser, which is Xiaomi designed themselves, so you can choose between those. And we can see that after a second of hesitation, everything is now fully loaded, and even the New York Times, which is a very complex site with lots of moving elements, as well as animations and images and videos and ads, it's handled perfectly on this, and even things like changing the orientation, there's almost no delay at all between that and pinching as well as interacting. So you don't have to wait at all for web browsing. With this large screen size, it really is a great experience for, again, interacting with the web and media in general. when it comes to the speaker quality of the Note 2, I wouldn't say it's outstanding. It's certainly not a highlight. It gets plenty loud, it packs plenty of volume, but again, it is in front facing. There is only one speaker. It is on the edge here as opposed to on the back, which is a plus. But again, it's not nearly as impressive as HTC's boom sound, but it works. A quick look at gaming, I would say that this isn't really an area that anyone should be concerned at all with the Note 2, especially with A21, which is still in my book one of the faster processors that you'll find on any mobile device. So performance is smooth. Any title that you download from the Play Store will run without any problems at all. So that's the Mi Note 2. For $250, $260, it's almost a perfect device in my book. Everything works as you would expect it to. Everything is snappy, it's responsive, with a beautiful design, a beautiful display, and a great camera on board as well. Call quality and all the essentials are right, and there's really no compromises. So you can check out more details about the Mi Note 2 in our written review coming out soon, but for now, this has just been our video. Overall, we'll say that its gorgeous design as well as excellent performance wins our Editor's Choice Award for the month of December 2017. I almost wish I picked this up a little bit earlier, but even with a 5.7-inch display, which again gets into more of a phablet territory, is still more than manageable just because of the thinness and the lightness of the phone, and the fact that Xiaomi has done such a nice job of optimizing the software so that everything can run without too many problems. So this is overall, again, a great option. It's a great alternative not only to the late Samsung Note 7, but it's a great phablet, it's a great smartphone, it's a great device in general, both for consumption, for work, as well as for play. So thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Xiaomi Mi Note 2.